Welcome, welcome. I see Henry Tim has joined right on time.
Henry,
Well, shout out to Henry there. First one in. Seeing some other people joining as well, but we'll jump right into it. Today is a informal, community focused webinar, so we're not going to be super deep into tech and everything. Actually, who knows? With this crew, we could be getting deep into it. Jared, we got a request already. Can we enable the chat so we can get some banter going, perhaps? Um, Anyway, we're talking about partnerships here. We're talking about partnerships between MSPs, partnerships with vendors, community, just the whole MSP sphere. And I think the chat is open, so that's great. Actually, I don't know, Jared. I think I can only chat to hosts and panelists. Apologies for the technical difficulty. Oh no, it's there. Henry Tim answering. There we go. Um, Hi, everyone. So we're talking about the power of partnerships. I've got an excellent panel here, some friendly faces who I love seeing in person, but we are all remote behind our desks today, here on video. And yeah, let's get into it. Why don't we go right in order here? Tom, why don't you introduce yourself and recently renamed your position to co-founder and CEO from owner. So congratulations there.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Tom Wyatt, co-founder, CEO of Wyatt Technologies out of Traverse City, Michigan. We actually just renamed our company like a couple months ago, and I'm still finding places I have to change it in all of our software. But this reminded me that owner doesn't really sum up what I do, so I changed it. MSP, 20 years in business. We do the same stuff everybody else does, I guess, except better. That's as good as I get.
Charles.
So Charles Love, Director of Operations out of an MSP out of Tampa Bay, Florida. And if you can't tell behind me, we are getting ready for a storm. So I am here.
Excellent. I'm Brian Lashbaugh with B4 Networks. I'm the founder and CEO. We're one of the largest managed service providers in our area. We have approximately 25 staff, 60 plus managed clients in beautiful Font Hill, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, I think we mixed up some titles there. So Jared will be getting the paddling or whatever other punishments we can do.
I could be Director of Operations today. That's okay.
You're like, I do them all anyway. All right, so let's just quick get to know everyone here. Like to see where everyone's calling in from, so feel free to put that in the chat there. I am calling in from New York City, from NYC. Would love to see where everybody else is. And then any partners in attendance, give us a shout out in the chat if you are a partner in attendance as well. And then banter question for the panel. What is everyone's favorite city to travel to for trade shows?
Oh, this is loaded.
Yeah. So far, mine's been either San Diego or Nashville. Mostly because I travel to Nashville almost every quarter. But San Diego was really cool when we went there.
San Diego's gorgeous. Nashville's fun, but Nashville can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm maybe the only person that says Orlando, but that's just because I go to Disney and don't care about anything for a while.
That's true. Yeah, you double up. You write off a Disney trip.
Yep.
I don't know. Chicago has some unique things with it as well. So I kind of like Chicago. Nashville's always good. San Diego for a Floridian is just so far, right? You're just traveling to the moon at that point.
Now, would the answer be different if you guys were going personal time versus trade show travel?
I like really Chicago.
Yeah.
If I'm going somewhere personal, Chicago is up there, especially because it's only like 6 hours away.
If it was personal, it's wherever my wife tells me to go. It's usually the safe bet.
Hi, Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's more of does a cruise ship go there? Because that's kind of our jam. So I'm just waiting on the MSP show that hits on a cruise ship. I'll be
Oh,
there.
it's coming. Matter of fact, I think one of the Facebook groups is planning one.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And I think we need to give a special shout out to Charles Love today because he is calling from Tampa, Florida. So we've got, if you're watching the video, you see the rolling storm graphics in the background. They're reporting live from outside of his place, from outside Showtech Solutions.
Yeah.
Is Jim
So
Cantor there yet? Is he outside your door?
Yeah, the initiation week has started.
Ooh.
He has moved north. So when you see Jim, you have to worry,
yeah, but in all seriousness, our thoughts are with you and everyone else in Tampa. There's a huge MSP community in Tampa and vendor community. So hoping for low impact, hoping for storm downgrades, and then if it hits, whatever, minimal impact and speedy recovery. You're all in our thoughts. But anyway, I think on all the topic of travel, I would like to mention our giveaway here. Jared, I believe we have a giveaway. We have a travel pack bundle, right? Noise canceling headphones and a portable travel dock that we will be giving out to member active in the chat. So I already see lots of people active going back and forth, but feel free to join in the discussion. All right, let's get into the first question here, the first official question outside of travel. So this is an open question, anybody can take it, but how has being a participant in the MSP community impacted you and your business?
Anybody? 'Cause I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it if nobody else jumps in.
Take it.
So I started this company in officially December of 2002. We opened our doors January of 2003, and kind of faked it until probably 2012, late 2011. We joined HGG, now ConnectWise Evolve, and up until that point, really kind of didn't have anybody to talk to, didn't have anybody that was in my same situation. Becoming a member of the community and finding out there was a community of people out there that would tell you what they were doing was mind-blowing. And it really helped me figure out mostly where I'm going and get us to the next level. So the communities, I'm still blown away by how amazing the people in this community are. The sharing that has gone on over the years is amazing. Just the stuff, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Somebody will tell you what they did. And it really doesn't matter if they're competitors or not. It's a co-opetition situation.
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, same. So just to answer some of the questions that were in here, we participate in a few different communities. I won't get into the specifics of each, but we joined a couple of them. When I had lost one of my largest clients way back in 2012. We went from I think it was $30,000 in recurring revenue down to about $5 in monthly recurring revenue, and it was devastating. So we joined one of the communities, and we were able to grow our monthly recurring revenue all the way up to 160,000 now, and it was all because of the community, the training, the people that we can bounce ideas off of. Recently, we've joined another one, MSP Geek, and again, we're getting some great people that we're meeting with there. It's helped us grow our operational maturity and just improving how we run our business. So yeah, it's very, very important to be part of these things, and I'll just highlight what Tom said is the amount of sharing that's going on is absolutely amazing, and myself included. I'm happy to share with most of the people in the community, processes, systems, how we, job functions, how we run our business. In some cases, some quotes and some proposal templates, things like that, and I get just as much in return as I pass out as well. So
yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. Right. So, I love Reddit, right? I hang out in RMSP a little bit too much, but it's like the age-old joke, right? You ask the same question to 10 people, you get 10 different answers, right?
Yeah.
And that's good, but on Reddit, you're going to get 10 completely different answers. But what you want to do is somewhere in the middle there, right? So, if I'm sitting there struggling with something, why don't I just like lob something out? Hey, what do you guys do for this? And you're going to get a bunch of people saying, you should do this. No, don't do that. Do this. No, don't do that. Do this. And then that helps you kind of formulate, well, I kind of like these. Let me kind of dial into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to shout out a couple communities. I heard a couple different ones. HTG, Tom mentioned, which is now called ConnectWise Evolve. Brian mentioned MSP Geek. Any other specific communities you guys either are a part of or have been a part of in the past that you'd like to call out?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'd probably address or give lots of kudos over to Technology Marketing Toolkit, Robin's team. That's where I learned a lot of my sales and marketing information, and I've enjoyed it so much. I've actually become a coach with Robin and help her sort of get some information out to the newbies and help them grow their businesses. So it's been that was probably the most impactful one I've joined so far.
My favorite
yeah,
community right now is the Tech Degenerates. It's official, not official, I guess. It's a great group of people who are sharing. It's not vendor focused. It's just wonderful people who, if you've got a problem, somebody will help you.
yeah, and I've been a longtime fan of both CompT and MSP Ignite. We definitely dial into a little more sensitive content in MSP Ignite, like how to run the business and things like that. But both of them really help with how to get the job done at the end of the day.
Was it like it sounds like all of you have had experience with sort of pulling back the curtain, getting honest, going through books and stuff like that with peer groups. Like what was that like the sort of the first time you did it, or was it awkward at first? Were you nervous? Like, and I mean now it seems like you're all very comfortable. You're like, hey, here's how our business works. Let me know.
My first HTG meeting was painful. The group raked us over the coals and gave us 20 or 25 things to do, including firing somebody when we got home. And we did. We got back to the office after the meeting. We fired the salesperson who wasn't performing, went through and did all the other stuff. And it was painful, but it was worth it. But once you get past that, once you figure out, you're doing stuff that's going to impact your business in a positive manner, it becomes way easier to take criticism or advice.
Yeah, and I'll give you a kind of a funny on that. So when I first joined MSP Ignite, I'm like, oh man, I was looking at the people in the group, and there's people with like 5 times, 6 times larger than us. I'm like, oh man, we're totally not going to be having the exact same issues. What a little 10-person company, what are we going to do? And then we get on the call, and sure enough, the legit same issues I'm struggling with, the guy with 50 to 100 people, same thing, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm hearing how they kind of handle it on a much larger scale. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. So you got to get rid of all the head trash and just know you're not that unique. The problems you have, the big people are having too. So learn from your peers and figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things you just said there is get the head trash out, and I think that's what helped me is when working with most of those communities, other people been there, done that, and they're able to call you out on your BS, right? When you are complaining about something or saying I can't do that because of XYZ, and they say like, no, we've done it, we've been there, we were in the same position, and this is what we did to resolve it. You just gotta do it, and it helps knowing somebody else has been there and done it, and
Yes.
that helps a lot.
Now, all great answers, by the way, and commend you all for getting there, pulling off the Band-Aid, getting honest, and ultimately coming out for the better with that. Tom, I've been asked this multiple times. People want to know how they can join Tech Degenerates, and I see people talking about it in the chat. I think I personally was in the Signal group, then I got a new phone, and then you moved to Discord or something. So I'm curious too, like what's the approval process? Is it sort of like Fight Club? I guess not, because we're all talking about it.
We don't talk about Fight Club. There is a Facebook page. let me see. I'm looking. There's
Somebody
so
put a
there's there-
website in the chat too.
yeah, there's a website, there's a Facebook page. We have a monthly Thursday night meeting where everybody gets together and talks. There's a Discord. Um, all of the information to join is out there. I don't see the Discord in the Facebook page, but if you look
Here we go.
around, yeah, if you look around, it's there and probably in the chat. But it's open, so it's open to everybody. Everybody's welcome to join. You know, community makes us all stronger. Rising tide lifts all boats, and that's why everybody goes there.
And do you have to be like a degenerate? Like, do you have to have like a gambling problem or something?
No, I think degenerate is just the term. I mean, I don't have a gambling problem. I can stop any time. So
Okay, great. Let's move on. No, I love it. In all seriousness, there's really great members in there, as many people in the chat have said. All right, so let's talk about evaluation, vendor evaluation. Constant conversation coming up. There are just so many vendors in the MSP space. You go to the shows, you look around, there's like 50 new ones that, you know, and you know, I've joined, right, CyberQP and formerly QuickPass, and you know, we were sort of new coming on the scene. There's lots of people coming in and out. There's lots of people offering services that you didn't know that you should be offering. There's lots of cyber vendors coming in. There's lots of enterprise vendors that want to pop in. Let's just, you know, talk about it. I'm sure there's lots of different areas. But the question, as read on the screen, are what are some of the main things you evaluate about a new vendor before you bring them into your managed services stack? And we can start with Charles on this one.
Sure. So I kind of have two different checklists. I have one for what I call a vendor, which means I buy a thing from, or I have a strategic partner checklist, right? So I'll talk to the strategic partner, somebody who I'm actually going to work with versus just purchase a thing. You know, it drives them nuts when I bring it up, but I have a bunch of questions. I'm not going to go over them all, but the things I'm looking for is, do they have a partner-led pack? Meaning, is there somebody advising them who is like me, saying, hey, you should add this feature, versus just a development team saying, hey, this is what people want. I'm also looking for things like roadmaps and channel connections and how to handle channel conflict. And one of the new ones I've been adding is, how do you handle moving accounts between MSPs, right? So I want to know a lot of these questions on not just what's your price, whatever, but how do we do business on a recurring basis? How do we handle any conflicts?
Yeah, great evaluation criteria there. Brian, you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things that we do. I also have a checklist that might not be as elaborate or as well defined, but we're looking for partners that are more or less channel only. If a client can purchase direct, we're really not as interested in dealing with that vendor. They have to be security minded. So if they are breached, or if something comes up with regarding a breach, or if somebody suspects that there's a breach, that they're very, you know, responsive to that. There's a lot of vendors out there who will deny, and I won't mention names. They have to be very responsive, meaning that if you have a problem and you want some help with the product, that they can bring you and get you that help as quickly as possible, versus waiting a couple of weeks. They should have a partner-led roundtable. They should be willing to accept feedback, and there should be a history of them implementing that feedback quickly, right? So if there's some feature requests that are the community is asking for, if they're ignoring it, that's the kind of thing that shies me away. Another important factor for me is, do they lock you into a long-term contract? If they do, then there better be a good reason as to why, versus just, you know, hey, we need to recover our marketing dollars. I found in the past where we have vendor lock-in, it's because they don't have a very good track record with regard to keeping partners happy, and the only way they can keep their partners is by keeping them locked into a 3-year or more contract. If they're going to lock you in, there should be some sort of, you know, discount based off of the full price or something like that. Anyway, that's a minor one, but it's an important one. Yeah, I mean, obviously there has to be some good information about them out in the community. So there's a couple major vendors that have really negative feedback in the community, and I typically will take most of that with a grain of salt. But when it's it's pervasive and it doesn't seem to stop, then we kind of put our shields up and say, okay, maybe not that vendor. So that's my sort of unofficial checklist, but I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, and I want to click into both those answers in a second here, but I'll give Tom a chance to answer as well first.
Well, Charles and Brian have pretty much covered it for me. The fun part is once you've got a vendor, you go to a trade show, you go to a conference, and there are 7 million vendors that do the same thing that of the people you're already using. How do you choose somebody else? So it becomes, I'm going to get 400 emails over the next week because I was at Exchange last week. You spend all this time doing all your due diligence. You talk to people. Hopefully you like them. I mean, I kind of find it's easier to deal with a vendor if I like the people at the booth. That's the first round.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the people hitting you up going, hey, we do this better. And it's like, so Charles and Brian covered everything we do. And then it comes down to, okay, if this vendor isn't doing something better than the vendors I already have, I'm just going to stick you over here. Everything's happy.
Yeah.
The contract portion is huge. And I want to bring up what Charles said about moving between tenants or whatever. That was not an issue until recently. But now that I've gone through it, that is huge. And clients where you have to uninstall everything and move, they've got to reinstall. It's just a nightmare.
Makes sense. So let's click into the evaluation, Brian, you talked about, like, I think you're alluding to reading online, like maybe I was maybe like one negative Reddit post or Facebook post can kind of, you can look over, like, things happen, but if it's like constant, were you talking about online communities, or is it sort of like word of mouth, or
Yeah,
like...
a little bit of both. So Reddit is probably not the best example, although I go there often. There's a lot of negative people on there, and a lot of people who you can't necessarily, you don't know whether their own business is successful or not. So I would rather use other communities such as TMT or MSP Geek or some of the other ones where you kind of know the person personally and you know whether or not their business is doing well, right? So if you're talking to somebody who's a one-man band, like, while their opinion might be valid, I'd much rather talk to somebody who's got 30, 40, 50 employees, because that's where I'm heading, right? And so I'm talking with people typically that I know, that I've met in person. I will reach out to them, have a conversation, especially if they've used the product or if they've been there, done that, and or I'll post it in communities that are more regulated, in the sense that they've got moderators that are removing the comments that might be more negative or have no purpose. So that's essentially what I'm looking for is my own communities that I've been working with closely, and the opinions they have on it. And if they have none, then I do my own due diligence with the product.
And what about, like, do you have all open question? Do you guys have a like trusted group of peers that you kind of, go back and forth with or share stacks with? Or, I mean, obviously you would do that in a peer group, and a lot of peer groups, will even buy products together or look for, special purchases together and have very similar stacks. But
yeah, so for me, the answer is that I part of a couple peer groups, and as I mentioned, I coach a couple of groups as well. So I've probably got about 30 people that I know, either met them in person or through these peer groups that I'm part of, that I will reach out to directly. About a handful of 6 that I've worked with very closely over the last 6 years. Tom actually was one of them, is one of them, and I'll often pick his brain as well when I'm running into some products I'm looking at that I know he's used.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when it comes to peer groups, like, I have completely been locked into a vendor, right? Like, cool, I'm ready to sign, right? And then my peer group with MSP Ignite is kind of like my brain trust, right? If they tell me it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea, right? Because ultimately I gotta, I have to answer to them anyway. But there have been some times where I was like, hey, I'm about to sign this contract. What do you guys think? And then I'll get a phone call. For the love of God, please don't do that, right? So you gotta kind of take it with ebbs and flows, but ultimately you have to have those people that you absolutely trust and who have your best interest in mind.
Exactly. There are people that have done way better than I have. and I'm not going to complain. We've been in business 20 years. I'm doing something right. I'll go to them and just say, hey, what are you using? And I might get 6 answers, but somewhere in there, the 6 people and I will talk about this and figure out, okay, this is what's going on, and off I go. And I don't think I have had any information from those people that has been bad. They've helped me shape where we go with our vendors, and everything works great. So back to the community. The community is indispensable for this stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I saw Brian shouted out Tech Tribe in the chat. Let's talk a little bit more about security evaluation. I heard a little bit of like a huge red flag is had a breach but covering it up or doesn't want to address it. And at least that's what I heard. And maybe like, security incidents do happen, especially if a company's huge. Microsoft, Cisco, these companies are having security incidents every month or vulnerabilities. And obviously you don't want any company to get hacked, but seeing how someone handles that is definitely a part of it. But like, I guess that's one direction that we could take the conversation. And then another part is like, what questions do you even ask people to vet them for security? Like it seems like very difficult. I've been getting like on my side, I've been getting grilled a lot more on security questions, getting asked a lot more for compliances that we can help meet, or things we follow internally, or asking for our SOC 2 report, things like that. But is it just like, hey, give me your SOC 2 report, or like what, like how deep are these conversations happening for security, or do is there more needed? I guess open forum. I don't even know what my question was, but I think you guys are understanding where I'm trying to get
at. There's a vendor due diligence worksheet out there that I've seen that calls out, SOC 2, how's access handled, who's got access to what, where are things hosted, how do you verify who gets support? We're long away from the days where you could just buy somebody and go, hey, I'm good. And now you've got to make sure that they're buttoned down. I mean, let's go to not to call out anybody, but I'm going to call it LastPass. The worker set up the VPN on his home PC, and the home PC was already compromised. How do you, are you as a vendor, as a company I'm going to partner with, are you allowing your employees to use non-company assets for company access? Things like that. You want to make sure that they're doing the right thing for you, because if they're not, there's a good chance you're going to get screwed in some way.
Yeah, and one thing that there's been a shift, and it's good and it's bad, but it's really good. And the shift has been, hey, partner, vendor, whatever, I'm having an issue. Can you go in and take a look? Back in the day, they would say, oh yeah, I looked at your tenant. I see what the issue is, da, 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 da. And you never really thought anything of it. Nowadays, even with CyberQP, it's like, yeah, we don't have access into your tenant. So can we do a remote session so I can see it? And then you're like, oh my God, why can't you just look?
Yeah.
And then you go, wait a minute, that's actually a good thing that you just can't go in and look. So that's kind of nice. But the next thing I'll say is I always ask the vendors, what controls do you map to, right? And you can immediately tell from the person, they're gonna be, oh, we do CIS and they, NIST, whatever. And or the ones are gonna say, what do you mean by controls? It's like, oh, sorry, I gotta go wash my cat. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a vendor you may not want to talk to.
Right. Yeah. Both those answers fantastic. Maybe I'll just add one thing to it. There's a well-known phone app provider for VoIP that recently had a compromise. Won't mention names again because it's not my style. But antiviruses were detecting it as a virus, and when people were calling into support, they were saying, "Oh, you got to call your antivirus company." Right? That kind of response, not acceptable. Right? It should have been, "Oh, an antivirus is detecting our product as a virus. Let's get on that right away. Let's find out if it's actually valid or true," versus them passing the buck and saying you got to reach out to your AV company. Turned out, obviously there was a breach internally at that organization, and their actual product was compromised, and it was being deployed compromised. And so security is not just a how do you handle your own internal operations, is also how do you handle a vendor or a customer when they call in and are asking for support or assistance with security or something that they believe is a security intrusion. Just again, another one of my colleagues had a problem with another really major MSP vendor where they, their tenancy with their RMM was compromised, and they were just deny, and it turns out there was definitely a compromise there. And so it's it's how do they handle those security incidents when you do call in with a concern, and do they take it seriously enough where they're actually taking action, or do they just pass the buck and weeks and weeks go by without no answers and no follow-up, that kind of thing. Like if one of my clients called because there was a security incident, like all hands on deck, like everybody's on it, because that is the most important thing at this point. Nothing else matters, right? So, and I get it's more complex at your level, Jimmy, and maybe some of our other vendors, but I mean, you guys handle it very well, but just some of those other vendors not so much.
It sounds like there's like a quantitative, due diligence checklist. Here's my standard set of questions, but also like a qualitative, like how are my interactions with them when I have conversations about security? When I see them, are they, I don't know, like you can kind of tell the maturity of someone just from interactions with companies is kind of what I'm hearing a little bit, and part of that is in the evaluation where like it's not as simple as like, do you have a SOC 2 report? Yes, like all those things are great, but it's also like when I ask you about security questions, do you know how to answer this question? Have you,
Right.
like, does your organization teach you how to answer it? When you've had security breaches in the past, are you trying to cover it up? Or are you like saying, here's the incident, here's how we fixed it,
Agreed.
that's all very interesting to me because it's not straightforward. It's not straightforward. It's
Yeah, I would trust a company who got compromised and handle it really, really well, and followed up with all the things they're supposed to do. Even if they did get compromised, because now that the process is there. And the reality is that with security, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? So everybody will be compromised at some point in their career. It's how do you handle that? How do you mitigate it? And how do you make sure that you have a system and process in place to handle it? And when they've demonstrated that system, okay, great. So now we know that it works, and we're able to mitigate it from there.
And I want to talk about the just briefly we've got a number of firewall vendors, security vendors who are releasing information on vulnerabilities in their firewall firmware. Seems like fairly regularly, but in my opinion, I would rather know that there's an issue, to upgrade than somebody to hide the stuff and just kind of, hey, by the way, you got to upgrade. There are people I've seen complain about the vendors that are releasing the information. Sometimes it feels like weekly, but I appreciate the transparency from those vendors. At least I know they're doing something about it.
yeah. I mean, I'll even say like Barracuda used to work there, as people know. They had a pretty bad, I forgot the details of it, but there's a pretty bad vulnerability in one of their boxes. And they were, they, in my opinion, I don't know. I mean, you guys could totally disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But they're pretty up front with the community, saying, here's what it was, here's the scope of it, here's the patch of it. And again, like it had nothing to do with their MSP division or their XDR division that I used to work in. It was like one of their many boxes that they have sold over the years. But like I don't have anything to do with them right now or any skin in the game for it, but I was like happy to see that, how they disclosed it versus like, oh no,
It's always nice when they're honest and upfront. If they're honest and upfront, I'm more likely to trust them with other stuff. If they're trying to hide it, why are they trying to hide it?
That's red flag, huge red flag.
Yep.
All right, let's move into another question here that everyone, wants the secret answer to. We've been talking about peer groups. We've been talking about lots of things actually. People, they want to see direct ROI on their investment, and maybe it's not, as simple as show up to this meeting and get new clients, or maybe it is. Maybe it's fixing the fundamental problems in your business, or just improving as a whole. But two-part question here. How are you finding new clients these days, post COVID, back to normalcy somewhat, deflation, rapid inflation economy, and who knows what's happening. And then can peer groups be seen as a key contributor, or is it, would you define it another way? Do you get referrals from them? Do you not? That is the essence of the question there. And we will start off with Brian.
Sure. So right now, most of our clients that we're finding today come from our direct mail marketing, organic leads, and referrals. So all three of those things combined. A lot of educational marketing will go a long way as well, right? Helping clients or prospects before they're even a client, walking them through the process, making sure they have everything they need, teaching them about security and about, how most managed services providers operate. The reality is in most cases, the majority of the clients are not, I'll say this, they're not qualified to make a decision on IT support, but they have to, right? I don't know if I said that correctly, but at the end of the day, they're not professionals in IT. And so they have no idea what to look for. And so direct mail marketing with some educational marketing helps quite a lot. With regards to can an MSP peer groups be seen as key contributors? Absolutely. A lot of the information I have on how to do that came from peer groups. How to ask questions, how to use wedge questions to oust an incumbent. Different types of proposals and different types of service plans. Most of them came from discussing with peers as to what they were doing. I don't know if you want me to dive into more, if we're gonna, because there's other questions that we have, but I'll
no, that's great. Well, yeah, we'll go to Charles and then
Okay.
Tom.
So obviously word of mouth is the best, right? But oddly enough, we're seeing an influx of people just randomly hitting the website, right?
That too, yeah.
And filling out the form. It's a little bit different than say 5-10 years ago, right? Where we were trying to reach them. Now they're coming to us. And a lot of it has to do with what our marketing team, and I think our CEO is actually on this call, but they're doing weekly videos, right? They're trying to do educational content, things like that. So back in the day when I used to walk up to a customer, sit down and go, "Hi, my name is Charles," they would have a stack of LinkedIn printouts, right? And like, so they would like kind of, I don't want to say stalk, but they would investigate us before we walked in there. And now they're able to just watch videos. So now we're not seeing the stack of paper. We're like, hey, we saw that video about how you guys secure people working from home. I want to know more about that. So we're turning more of the bloggy style thing to more content that isn't necessarily MSP focused, but it's business focused. And we're finding that's actually opening up a few more doors.
Absolutely.
We're doing the same. We're doing the same stuff Brian's doing, and I'm working toward where Charles is. Direct mail, some email marketing. I have a business development rep on staff who follows up with calls. Years ago, I was told at a conference, 20% of your clients are upset with you at any given time, which I don't quite believe. I think it depends on the company, but you're gonna get somebody. So I'm doing a couple meetings a week just through phone calls, direct mail marketing, and you get the people who are upset. And the big part of it is, okay, you're upset, but is you being upset something that's enough for me to take you on as a client? So I think the days of us going after every dollar there is are over. You got to be smart about it. You don't want to take somebody who's going to be a race to the bottom. So the marketing supports it, and then it's a matter of, okay, now that we found you, or now that you found us, are we going to get along?
Are we the right fit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you guys verticalizing at all, or looking for specific types of like legal or something like that?
Not as much as we probably should, but I'm in an area of Michigan that is kind of small, and there are 7 million MSPs in my little town. At least it feels that way.
We verticalize a little bit. Like from our marketing perspective, we'll market most of our marketing to either agricultural sector and or the long-term care sector, but we won't restrict ourselves to that market. If a client is approaching us based on other marketing or just some of the educational information that we put out there, I'm happy to discuss with them. And again, it's all about whether they're a right fit. Somebody once told me, for everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. So always be selective over who you accept in, because you might have to turn away a better fit down the road because you're too busy dealing with the wrong fit.
Yep.
Yeah, and we were, funny enough, if you asked me this question a year ago, I would have said no. And then a couple months ago, Carrie and I wrote all of our customers on the board, and they're kind of industry type. And unknowingly, we were focusing on professional services and nonprofit, right? Like lawyers and CPAs and things like that. So it's just what we gravitate toward, right? We're not necessarily going after the SMB, the 1 or 2 man shows, right, anymore. But boy, we're definitely dialing in, and we're embracing it, right? We're doing an entire marketing plan just on nonprofit and what we call professional services, legal, nonprofit, CPAs, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's about where we are too. The professional services stuff has been fun. Manufacturing has been kind of interesting too, because they know they need the IT, they know they need the software to control, handle manufacturing, but they just want to build stuff. So
yeah,
hey, here we are.
So I think we're a little past the discussion of like break fix versus MSP, but there is a whole rabbit hole you can go into on packaging and making it more marketable and easier to consume. How has that sort of played a role in finding new clients? And do you keep it simple, like just number of devices standardized for everyone, or base and then some add-ons? Like, how does that work for you, and what has made it easier, I guess, to bring on new clients?
So I'll sorry,
go. Charles.
You go.
Okay, so from our perspective, we have 2 service offerings. We only will work with somebody if they allow us to take care of cybersecurity and that backup disaster recovery. So the bare minimum, they have to have our entire cybersecurity stack, along with, and it's just a 1 per node cost. And then the other option is that and our full managed services. So that's effectively everything all in except for projects. And in both cases, it's typically priced per node per user, either or a combination of both. It's usually custom per client at that point. If they have a lot of nodes and less users, then we'll price it differently than if they have a lot of users and less nodes, because some of the licensing is per user and some of the licensing we get is per node. But in all cases, they have to let us take care of cybersecurity. And insurance companies are actually driving a lot of that growth now, because they're now requiring things in most cases like EDR and or 2FA and different solutions. And so primarily, if they're not willing to let us take care of security, I run in the other direction.
So we offer about 42 different packages. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So we have what I like to call 3 packages. You're either top tier, or you're almost top tier, or you're not a fit, right? And that's the 3rd package is the new one, and we actually sell that one the most nowadays, right? Because we're trying to make better decisions on, are you actually a fit for us? Like, have you invested in IT, things like that. So if they have not, then they get the not a fit package, which is $0 per month.
I'm gonna add that to my stack. We are we'll do security, we'll do all in. So, and the security, it usually leads to an all-in. Honestly, we changed our name a couple months ago because of the people. We used to be Wyatt Computer Services. People find you in the phone book, or they find you online. Computer Services, hey, my computer won't turn on. And moving to Wyatt Technologies has actually lessened those phone calls quite a bit. And this morning we had a phone call from somebody looking for Office 365 help, but no, I don't want to do it. We focus on managed services and we still have some break fix work because I have legacy clients. They are either being converted or they are being handed off. The break fix work, money is green, of course, But when the client calls up and says, I want you to drop everything for me and I only talk to you once a year, it's really difficult to justify.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds I mean, you guys have said it, that movement in the industry and maturity in the industry, it's part of it's where all you guys are at as a business too, being around for a while, having, you're not in I need to get my business started and going right now mode. But finding the right clients, looking internally, like, okay, like if they're not getting endpoints and emails covered at the very least, or some basic form of security package, then it's going to cost a lot more for me to protect them, right? Where they're paying less and I'm paying more, right?
Right.
So it's really good points you guys are making. Like you can do more, provide a better service at healthier margins with less clients if you find the right people to work with, and they'll ultimately be happier too and get a better experience.
That's it.
And I'll tell you one thing to jump back to the whole peer group thing. Somebody in our peer group, shout out to Anchor Networks and Mike, they actually showed us how they actually grade customers with an ABCD grade. So we actually adopted that. So now we're looking at those C and D customers, trying to figure out if they're actually, something we want to focus on.
We did that back with our HGG stint. We did a couple years with C-Level Ops, which is now part of PAX 8. And that was one of the things that Rex Frank taught us. Grade the clients.
Even current clients.
Yeah, even current
and
clients.
What are you looking at? Like number of calls in, like what the tickets are like, or what they have?
How much they put into IT? How, are they serious about this? What's their spend? Are they fully managed? Which not everybody's fully managed. I got a couple of stragglers. How seriously they take it.
Yeah. Do they do the things you suggest?
Yes. So the clients that don't take the suggestions or kind of, I just need you to show up whenever, they're at the bottom, and unfortunately they're going to get they're going to have a longer wait time for service. The clients who take it seriously, which is the vast majority of the people we have, we jump on them. And it's kind of the way it has to be now. I mean, if they're not serious, the conversation is going to lead to, do you really want to be here, kind of thing.
Yeah, and we have one, I won't give you the whole list, but we have one thing where it basically says, do the techs have to close their eyes and take a deep breath before
The cringe
clicking
factor.
accept?
The phone
Right?
rings and you're like, ugh.
Yeah,
I can hear
like,
that across the office.
Yeah, so that's part of our grade as well, right?
It
Like,
is.
do they take our advice, right? Are we quoting them a laptop and they're going to buy something on Amazon because it's $20 cheaper, to find out that they have to buy a Windows Pro and we have to spend an extra 2 hours? We don't want those.
And how do they treat my tax?
Right.
Yes.
That's a big one. I've had clients who are abusive and they're no longer clients.
It's easier to find a new client than find a really good employee.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like if it's a fight to replace the 6-year-old laptop for one of the employees that they're constantly calling in because it's broken, then it's kind of a telltale sign of how things are going.
Yeah. Sometimes those clients can be talked back from the edge. Sometimes they can't, but we've had some pretty good luck. Say, look, this thing isn't going to work. It's garbage. Your employees losing productivity. You're upset because they're not getting their work done. It's because of this. If you just invest some money, it'll pay, the employee will pay that back with their productivity increase. Let's go.
Oh yeah. A computer takes $1 a day to operate for most businesses versus, a salary of hundreds of dollars for a person. Right.
Yep.
So yeah.
Great banter in the chat too, or comments, really, not even banter. These are like insightful comments. I will say, some chat about saying and I'll mention it too, like being like, it's a regular talking point in the industry and has been for 10 years, right? Of move away from breaks fix to managed services. And sometimes it can get missed that many companies, or probably most companies, are still doing, some type of fee for service, whether that be project work or even responding to RFPs or something like that. Like that work's still out there, and I'm not saying don't do that at all. I think what I'm saying is was looking more for a conversation around how to package things up for managed services, not like why you should do that instead of bill hourly, because I think that's been sort of beaten to death over the past 10 years as a topic.
Yeah. You got to make sure you're covering the security. You got to make sure that everything you're doing is going to keep the client secure. You don't want them to suffer a breach, because then you are in trouble. Anything you can do to guarantee their productivity, if they can do their job and they don't have to worry about being breached or hacked or losing data, they can focus on their work and they're happy and we're happy and everybody is happy. Kind of redundant, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah. My only comment on that would be, listen, if you're doing break fix work, I'm not gonna rail on you or anything, but I want everybody to consider one thing, and that is with cybersecurity where it's at today, and clients having, I would say, for the most part, a lack of knowledge as to how to secure their own networks. Do you really want to be the IT provider for somebody who is a break fix client when they get hacked? Because in the eyes of the media, when that gets out, they won't care whether you were responsible for that hack. Your name will be dragged through the mud because you were, quote unquote, the service provider for that company, right? It doesn't matter if you've made them sign a denial of service letter. It doesn't matter whether you have a contract that's rock solid that will say that you're not responsible for security. In the eyes of the public, if when your name hits the media, if it does, that's it. Like, your reputation is mud, right? Whether you can't fight against that. So
that's true. That's a big one.
Our industry is fascinating. There's really not another industry where people just make on the fly exceptions, right? You can't take your Ford car into Ford and say, you know what? Can you come pick it up at 8 o'clock tonight? Because I don't feel like going out there. They laugh at you and hang up, right? But we make constant exceptions for people. Like, yeah, I know you don't want to like call me. I have to text you first. Like, as an MSP, we tend to go way above and beyond that no other industry ever does, right? Because we always want to be service first, right? We always want to be the hero, the heroine, right? Whatever. But a lot of times when you make all these exceptions, you're actually hurting the process and you're setting unrealistic expectations. But again, we're the only industry that I can think of that just makes on the whim concessions, right? And then not realizing, oh man, I just gave that customer my cell phone number. This is disastrous.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I worked on something on Sunday night. It's you want to be you want to please people. You want them to be happy with your service. And when you first start out, because I'm guilty of this, when you first start out, you'll say yes to anything just to make a buck. You got to put food on the table, you got kids to feed or whatever, girlfriend you got to feed or something. And then after you get into it for a while, you're like, I should have never given them my cell phone number, because it doesn't stop.
Actually slows it down because you might not get the message, right?
Yeah. I love talking to the kids who are getting it, and I say kids. I love talking to the people who are getting into this business now and just say, look, don't do all of this stuff that I did. Just don't. Do it this way. You'll be way happier in the future. You'll be way more successful. I've got a pamphlet coming out on it. So
yeah.
I like the analogy.
No is okay.
Like you go to a car dealership and you're like, I'll take this car. Yeah, but I have my own engine and I don't need any seatbelts. And you're like, sir, but the seatbelts have been required by law since 1989, or whatever.
I got my own seatbelts.
I got my own seatbelt. Yeah.
But
I think that's one of the things that
took them out.
Yeah, that's what's harming our industry a lot right now, is that almost every other industry you can think of, accounting, dental, medical, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, they all have a professional association that forces them to do things. They have to do it their way or they lose their license. And a lot of people don't know. And I've actually asked questions to clients like, what do you think we need to do in order to be an MSP? And they come up with this list of regulation, like, nah, nothing. Just, man, I just have to register my business name and boom, I'm an MSP, right? And so, and we're the ones handling cybersecurity for Fortune 500 companies and intellectual property that is essentially national security. And yet we have absolutely zero regulations to become an MSP. Now, certain industries have to follow certain regulations, but we don't have to be regulated in any way, shape, or form. We don't need a license to be an IT provider, right? Even insurance brokers need a license to be an insurance broker. Right?
I'm not sure about Canada, but I know in the US, in a lot of states, you have to be licensed to cut hair.
There you go. Like, what is that?
It's there's a conversation around regulation and licensing. The National Society of IT Service Providers, Carl Palachuk, they're trying to get in front of it, which I think is great because it's coming. I think Louisiana does some stuff as far as regulations go. I think California is talking about it right now. At some point, we're going to be subject to showing some kind of license, or they're going to have requirements. We're going to have insurance. We're going to have a business license. Hopefully that's. I don't want to say that's it. Hopefully it's not too bad, but I cannot see how anybody doing this job could not do it without having E&O and liability insurance right off the bat. Yeah. Because anybody who does that's just setting themselves up for failure.
We lost a client the other day. They were a defense contractor in Canada, and their MSP took over and put in a router, a residential router in place, a TP-Link residential router in place of with a default password, I should add. And I cringe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Then
we
again,
were too expensive.
that's dodging a bullet though. So
yeah, we were too expensive.
Chris Boss says default password is the way to go, so everyone knows what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Right, if I walk into a site, I should be able to get right in.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here, so we'll do quick closing thoughts or closing advice, and then Jared can announce the winner of our travel bundle today.
The one thing I want to tell anybody that's getting into this right now, learn to say no. That's the most important thing that you will use over the course of your career. Learn to say no. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to take every dollar. Don't do anything that's going to hurt your business or hurt you in the future. No needs to be part of your vocabulary.
Wow, that's probably the most impactful one yet. Yep. What I'll say is, and it's just a comment on some of the questions that are here. A lot of owners of MSPs have a really hard time letting go of all of the different pieces of their business. And the reality is that if you want to expand and you want to grow as an MSP, you have to learn to be able to systematize and provide that information to your teams. And the best way I could describe it so far is just as you're doing it the last time, you just screen record while you're doing whatever it is you claim that you're the only one who can do in your business, and then pass it over to somebody else and say, document that, and then move on, right? And don't just get them to do it, watch them do it the next time they do it, or verify that they're doing it correctly, audit, trust, but verify, but definitely figure out a way to be able to release your requirement of you having to do everything. And that's the only way you'll grow.
Yeah. And I'll end it with, you don't have to be everything to everyone, right? It's okay to partner. It's okay to say no, because if you are, then disaster will happen, right? So I don't let my techs climb a ladder, right? Because there are people with special insurances that know how to put holes in walls, right? So we're okay with saying, you know what, we have a guy we can connect you with. Guess what? It'll be cheaper for you to have him climb the ladder than have my guys climb the ladder. So, and no, just remember, no is okay to say.
That is a great way to close it. We're on the hour here. So Jared, why don't you announce the winner and of this great bundle? We should have shown that at the beginning.
That's a nice bundle.
Yeah, so we've got everything you need to travel, whether it's for personal or to your next trade show. Winner's going to be Tyler Martin, West Computers. A lot of thoughtful conversation going on in the chat. Appreciate everybody who joined and was engaged in the chat. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice. Thank you.
Nice job, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
See you all.
See you.